Recording in progress.
All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Ryan Kassner. Ryan, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Oh, you bet. I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this. And I want to start off by giving a shout out to Nick, because Nick Seller is the one that introduced you and I. And I'll tell you, man, I love Nick. I love who he is. I love how he shows up. And when he introduced you and I and was like, Kevin, you should seriously consider interviewing Ryan for the podcast, I'm like, man, anybody that would come through Nick is somebody that I want to have a conversation with and get to know and stuff. And we had that conversation and got to know each other. And man, I've been looking, I'm really excited to have this conversation today with you, Ryan. And what a powerful testament right there to the power of right relationships, which of course is what this podcast is all about and stuff. So how long have you, how do you and Nick know each other?
That's one thing I was going to say. I mean, you're a wise man to recognize so quickly how powerful Nicholas's reputation and judge of character is. And quite frankly, I consider myself very, very blessed to have him in my life. And I am terrible with dates and timelines, but I can give you rough ranges of just about anything and everything. And Nicholas and I met shortly after I started my consulting firm, my sales consulting firm, Kassner. I started networking like crazy, realizing the power of word-of-mouth relationships, word-of-mouth marketing specifically through strongly rooted relationships. And I met him through a large networking group. We were just two different participants in a room of anywhere from 15 to 30 people. I don't remember when I first met him, but it was a lot of virtual meetings with business professionals around the country, all B2B focused. Okay. And there was just something, to your point, the way that he showed up that just stood out to me. He just always seemed to be shining with grace and wisdom, and it was just something I wanted a little bit more of. And I loved. He caught me one time with his introductory line, and it was 3 simple words. It was scale the unscalable. And I was like, I really like that. It's short, it's sweet, it's powerful, and now I need to know what it means. What is unscalable, and how do you go about scaling it, right? So we set up a one-to-one and instantly hit it off from that point. And all of this was going on really heavy for me in 2020. And I feel like that must have been when it was. Likely late fall, early winter 2020, at the latest probably spring of 2021 is when we met. And then we've been close ever since. We ended up taking over the biggest group through that networking program. We ran it together. And then we have since separated from that organization and remained in touch. And we're to the point where we text regularly, email regularly, and we make sure to have at least one connection for an hour once a month just to keep up to date with each other, pour into one another, hold each other accountable. And I can honestly say there's nobody better to learn from and nobody better to bounce ideas off of from my experience than Mr. Nicholas Soller.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, man, like I said, what a powerful testament right there to the power of right relationships. And that's what it's always about, is the right relationships. And, well, let me just start off by talking about you and what you do. And I'll just start off with a really simple question. What do you do, Brian, and who do you serve?
Really simple answer. I galvanize people to recognize their potential and what their God-given gifts are, and then I enable them to go out there and do that. Those are 2 things that I've been equipped with, and I do that in a variety of different ways. So again, I started Kassner back in 2020, and that was geared towards supporting sales individuals, sales professionals, sales teams, and organizations. And that led very heavily into sales consulting and sales coaching being my biggest passion there. And that's where I frequently will say, and I receive a lot of resistance for this statement, but I still hold true to it. I believe that anybody, and I mean that, anybody can be an incredible salesperson. And I think to do that, you need to redefine what a salesperson truly is. You just need to understand what it actually is and not what the cliche salesperson is, what the stereotypical salesperson is. Not everybody can be that, but that does not mean that not everybody can be an incredible salesperson. So I hold true to that. That's what kept me passionate through Kassner. That's where I still love to coach so much. I love to coach tenured sales reps that are your stereotypical character trait driven sales rep.
Okay.
But I also love, one of my favorite people to coach from a sales perspective are engineers, because they're very process driven, and a lot of engineering minded type people tend to say, I'm not a salesperson, I'll never be a salesperson, and I don't believe that to be true. So I love coaching those individuals. And through that work with Kassner Keen, I've jumped into the educational space. I ended up running a group of business owners within our community that led me to an opportunity to teach. I'm teaching a sales and marketing class at a local school here within our community. And that has also led me further into the educational space, where I help support, galvanize, and enable a team of sales and marketing professionals that build career and technical education programs within schools and organizations across the Midwest. So I work there as the director of market development, and that's really all about career exploration, helping students understand what they really like to do, what they're really good at doing, and what's viable in the marketplace, so that they can have skill sets that will set them up for prosperous careers that serve their communities and support their families for decades to come.
Wow. So what inspires you most about the work that you get to do and the impact that you're making, Ryan?
I mean, on every front that I've mentioned so far, and to be honest, I actually missed a couple things in there that I have done / will be doing, and I'm starting to do now. But the motivation is the exact same on every front. And that's where a lot of people look at me like, how do you do so many different things? Why are you doing so many different things? And it's because the reward is the same. And that reward is seeing that light bulb click in somebody's eyes. So it's somebody who never thought they'd be a salesperson. The light bulb clicks. They realize they can be a great salesperson because they now know what they were missing that was holding them back or mentally blocking them. A student in a career exploration program, or even an in-depth skill development program, having that light bulb click of like, I get this. I had the great fortune of interviewing a student with a very bright future just last month for a video testimonial we're putting together for marketing purposes. And his testimony to a course that he was taking was incredible, because there's some very complex looking equipment and trainers that go along with developing these hands-on skills. And he commented on his interest being piqued by walking through or past the classroom, looking in the door of the classroom at all the equipment and how overwhelming and daunting it seemed. But he had a level of curiosity, and that curiosity sparked him to walk into the room, to ask the questions, and he eventually signed up for the class. He's now passed multiple certification tests, and he's looking at an incredible career ahead as he is prospered as one of the best students in that class. And he looks around that very same classroom and says, I know what all of these things do, and I know how they all work with each other. And then he got up and started running some of the most complex equipment right then and there to show me and walk me through it, and he was teaching me. And what's the best way to learn? It's to teach somebody else. And this student was so overwhelmed, and now he's so passionate that he's teaching a random person he just met 5 minutes ago about all the awesome things that he knew. And you could see that light bulb, that glimmer of hope in their eye, that I do have a bright future and that I am very skilled and I'm doing exactly what I was made to do. And it's just so very rewarding when you can help a young student do that. It's just as rewarding when you can help somebody who's been in the wrong career for 20, 30 years, or somebody who's been hitting their head against a brick wall for so long. It's so rewarding to do that. So I get to do that from inside the classroom, developing sales and marketing. I get to do it from outside the classroom, building programs within that classroom, and I get to do it from a business perspective, working directly with professionals that are already well on their way in their career, and they just need that little bit of motivation, encouragement, enablement, galvanization to go.
Yeah. Wow. How did you get into doing this kind of work, Ryan? Because I'm sure you weren't always an entrepreneur. And you mentioned this. You mentioned that you just started this a few years ago. How did you get into doing this?
God and support from my wife, I would say. So I can give you a little background on my story. I spent the first decade of my career post-college, and I did start to get some professional experience in college. So I guess we'll even back up to, high school. I started as an entrepreneur, just traditional landscaping business as a high school student, because I knew I'd have to buy my own car, and I wanted to be able to do that the day I turned 16, and I did gracefully. I worked hard, and I was able to purchase my first car before I turned 16 so I could get my license the day I turned 16 and be driving, and that was a lot of fun. And that kind of taught me, I think that gave me the entrepreneurial spirit. That's where my dad really poured into me a lot. I'll never forget a conversation with one of my very first customers when I had to have a price increase conversation. And my dad equipped me with everything I needed to say and talk about with that customer to increase the price of the service, the routine service I was providing for him. And that gentleman lived just 3 houses down from my childhood home, so he knew my parents. And I was about halfway through my spiel, and he's like, "Your dad coached you through this, didn't he?" I was like, "Well, of course he did. I'm a sophomore in high school. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here." So my dad was very instrumental in that regard. He was a blue-collar worker that worked his way up to become a white-collar executive, leader, and just sales pro of pros. And he ingrained a lot of that in me. So I knew I wanted to do business, but I had no idea what. I honestly didn't think I'd be a salesperson. So I, born and raised here in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I still live, really wanted to travel for college. But my parents made it abundantly clear they wouldn't be paying out-of-state tuition, and I appreciated their generosity to pay in-state tuition, so I stayed in-state. Went to the University of Cincinnati, entered the College of Business not knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up. I took all the intro-level business classes, and accounting, of all things, really hit me. I was always good at math. I was good at the accounting classes. I succeeded, got great grades, and I kind of thought that it would get me a job. There was a bit of an economic slump when it was major time, major declaration time. So I declared my major as accounting, and that did get me a couple co-ops. I worked at one company in their tax department. I worked another in their GL department. I got to see both sides of corporate accounting, and ended up getting a job as a corporate accountant in a Fortune 500 business immediately following my graduation. So I was straight into the accounting world. Thought I would be doing that for at least 3 to 5 years. And while I was in that role, I realized that understanding the financials allows you to understand anything else about a business. And that really intrigued and excited me. And again, I thought I'd be accounting for at least 3 to 5 years. You got to put your time in. You can't expect to jump into a new role really quickly. You have to do justice to the person that recruited you into this position. You have to do well. Well, I was a little less than 2 years in, and this gets me straight into an impact-driven relationship that I had, and that was a gentleman named Fred Wiebe. He was the executive of one of the divisions within this company. He put on a training for all the accountants to help us understand that division better because we were analyzing the financials. We were trying to help field leadership understand the business as a whole from a profitability perspective. And there were a lot of scratched heads because it was a unique service line within that given entity. And we had some really good questions for Mr. Wiebe that led to a desire to grab lunch and dig deeper. So I got to go to lunch with him and one of his directors. And by the end of that lunch, he had a job offer for me to move out into an operational leadership position.
Wow.
And I had to respectfully decline that first one, not because I didn't love the idea of the job, but because I didn't love the idea of moving so far away. It was going to be a 19-hour drive from Cincinnati, and I'm very family-driven, and that was just too far. But 6 weeks later, they came back and said, well, if you're still interested in that type of job, we have a closer market available that we'd be interested in entertaining you for. And I was fortunate enough to get that opportunity. I relocated down to Nashville, Tennessee, to work with them as an operational leader on that service. So that got me out of accounting very quickly, moved me into service, and it's all because of Fred that I took that journey and that trajectory to start to build that both leadership skills, operational excellence skills, P&L management skills. You know, I was a P&L analyst as an accountant. Now I had to actually run an organization and be judged on how well my P&L performed. Yeah. And that was a really, really fun journey, great learning experience, both customer engagement, customer service, and leadership of my team.
Yeah.
As well as indirect leadership. That was huge. And then from there, I eventually moved into sales. We'll fast forward it there, sales and sales leadership, sales coaching. And at that point, I had the finance accounting side, I had the operations side, I had the service side, and I had the sales side. So I'd seen a little bit about everything of being a business owner, quite frankly. And I had the great fortune of doing that with the comfort of a Fortune 500 business with well-established processes and resources and training. They trained like crazy. I'm so very grateful for all that training and the countless people that I learned from there because that really built the foundation I needed to go out on my own. So when COVID came through, it's when I decided to ultimately start Kassner Keen. So I was let go as a reduction in force when COVID hit. And honestly, I think it was a blessing. I think I had done my time there and I had learned what I needed to learn. I had the impact I needed to have, and it really felt like a stress lifted off my shoulders. But there's still a lot of unknowns. So that was in March of 2020 there. Okay. And then my second daughter was set to be born in May. So we're in lockdown. My wife is nearing the end of her third trimester. Her company's acquired. There are a whole lot of unknowns in what's going to happen with our incomes through COVID and the lockdown, but we just decided to embrace it. We enjoyed that summer of 2020. And I watched job boards and I wasn't desperate to find a job. I wanted to take that time with my family anyways, and not having that level of pressure to find something now helped me realize that I wasn't excited about any of this. I'm not going to jump into something I'm not excited about until I found the opportunity to license fractional sales leadership resources, I guess. And I ultimately reflected on that a lot because it really intrigued and excited me. And then I decided to just go into that line of business for myself. And I chose not to go one of the license routes. I was like, I've got everything in my head from my experience. I need to do this. So I'm just going to go do it. And I just started moving and just started running, started Kassner Keen from there, which again quickly pivoted into coaching, being a greater passion of mine than necessarily fractional sales leadership. Okay. And all of that has just continued to lead me down this journey. So that dipped my toe into the entrepreneurship water as to how I got into it. And then from there, it's just one thing after another, following the right doors, continue praying, continue trusting that God's got me on the right path, and trying to make sure that I stay within His will. And then all of that would be completely impossible without my wife. Yeah, she was very encouraging when I mentioned the idea of wanting to start this. She was nothing but go for it, let's do it. And she's been by my side all along the entrepreneurial journey way. And Kassner Keen spun off into an accounting firm that I think she saw my entrepreneurial journey, and she was a little jealous still in corporate America. She said, I want to come do this too. So she actually started an accounting firm. So she started that. I ended up, 2 young kids in private school, decided to jump over and help her scale that pretty quickly. So I turned into sales and marketing for her while she ran the rest of the operations, being a CPA herself with a whole lot of accounting experience from every background you could possibly imagine. And that took off. That did really, really well. And eventually we ended up selling that and moving on. And now we've got a new entrepreneurial journey in the headlights up ahead of us that we're starting to work into. So we've got that ingrained in us. We've got corporate ingrained in us. And I've done a little bit of everything because I've had great opportunities presented to me with incredible people there to teach me along the way.
Yeah. What an awesome story. And the thing that really stood out for me was how, you didn't just latch onto something because you felt like, oh, I should do this thing next. You really gave it thought of like, what do I want to do? What would really excite me? What would just get me just jazzed to get up out of bed every morning, just do what I do and make the impact that I make? And, we hear that all the time. If we do what we love, we'll never work a day in our lives. And I think a lot of people, they don't get to figure that out for themselves. They even a lot of entrepreneurs don't get to figure that out for themselves. But you and I, we have figured out how to, just really use our God-given gifts and abilities to be able to serve the right kind of people. And I don't know what it's like for you, Ryan, but for me, doing what I do, it's like I'm just hanging out with my cool friends doing cool stuff, and we get to make a big impact together, and it's just a lot of fun. And I was just talking with one of my clients this morning going, you know what? I am so excited for 2026 and the foundation that we've laid and where we're going. And I'm like, I just want to do more and more of what I've been doing, And so, what for you? What's an example? What's a result that you have helped a client get? You don't need to name names here necessarily or anything, but what's a result that you've helped a client get that you're just incredibly proud of, Ryan?
The result I've helped a client with that I'm incredibly proud of. The first one that comes to my mind there. Is actually an engineer. So it's funny, I already started speaking about how much I really enjoyed engineers, but he was an electrical engineer. He had a corporate job for a very long time. He made a lot of money for that corporate job, and I think started to realize just how valuable he really was. So he broke out on his own, and he started his own company and said, oh crap, I need to sell this now. And he believed fully in his ability as an electrical engineer to design these chips to be very successful, but he did not believe in himself as a salesperson. And actually met him at a chamber networking event, Chamber of Commerce networking event. And he had just started out, and he had landed 2 or 3 clients so far. He actually had a very small addressable market. The unique service that he performed, which actually I don't think I am permitted to even discuss, honestly, only had 92 potential customers. And he was in one of them because they went with him from his other job. And then he got into the other two by leveraging his relationship with that one, which is a great way to sell, as we all know. And he was starting to hit some roadblocks there. His known connections and relationships were not getting him any further into any other doors. So he realized he had to start trying to sell. And when I told him what I was doing, he was very quickly intrigued, and we started working together very closely. And he was one of those people that I've never seen the light spark in their eyes so quickly once they realized that they could do this, that they had what they needed to. So I developed a custom sales process for him. I trained him on it. We put together presentations and everything he needed to execute on. And at that point, it became extremely procedural, which just clicked in his mind as an engineer. He got the process. Do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. He's like, that's all I have to do? I can do that. I can do all those things. I'm like, of course you can do all those things. Just go. Just do it sequentially, and you'll be fine. And the real joy came from that very first cold outreach that he made, got an appointment, ran a discovery, executed a flawless presentation, and closed the deal. And it was worth $3 million to him and his family. Just that one deal was worth $3 million to him and his family. And that made me feel so very good. Yeah. I got to follow up with him a year after our engagement, and he was in a dozen more locations. He says, like, I don't think I would have gotten into any of these if that light bulb didn't click for me and you helped turn it on. So thank you. And that was just one person, one family. I've had impact at other organizations with probably not bigger percentages of growth, actually. Bigger dollar amounts, but they just don't feel. That's the first one. It felt so very good.
Yeah. Well, rightfully so. I mean, what an awesome story that is. I can only imagine how rewarding and how fulfilling that must have been for you, knowing that you just got to have a hand in helping with that and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in the spirit of this podcast, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that was an introduction formed by, and I don't want to forget her title. Oh, she was the community engagement director for the Chamber of Commerce. She was the one that hosted all of these events, and it was just a coffee networking that I was at. And she knew what I did. She knew what he did. And I think she might have known what he needed, because she specifically came over to me almost as soon as I walked through the door for the event and said, I need you to go meet this gentleman. And she took me right over and introduced us. We shook hands and we hit it off from that moment. So Lisa saw something that needed to happen, and she made it happen. So kudos to her for that.
Yeah. Wow. What another power of right relationship right there. She saw somebody that was struggling with the thing, and she was like, you know what, Ryan is just the guy that I believe he needs with and stuff. And so she got you guys connected, Mm-hmm. And both of you already had enough of a relationship with her that trust was there, that you're like, okay, if she's suggesting that we should talk, then I'm going to talk with this person. Both of you felt that way. And I'll tell you, what a beautiful way to come into a relationship and an initial conversation with someone through somebody that you already know, that both parties already know and have trust and confidence in. I mean, that makes such a huge difference, Mm-hmm. And wow. So from your vantage point right now, Ryan, here we are, starting a new year, and what's your vision going forward from here?
My vision for what?
For your business and the impact that you get to make on people's lives.
So, and that's the thing. That's where I'm doing multiple different things. From the educational perspective, in my time in the classroom, my vision is to increase that impact, because I need that impact to be greater than just the one classroom I'm in. And I'm still trying to find the right person, because that's something that I have identified a while ago. I need a partnership. So I started Ignium Education, which is something I haven't mentioned to you yet. And that is productizing the curriculum for the marketing and sales class that I teach, to get that content into other schools. And I'm looking for a partner there. So my vision is to identify that partner for that business line. My wife and I have another business that we are looking to get off the ground. It's been an idea of hers for a couple of years now, and we're looking to start to bring it to life gradually over time throughout 2026. So I've got a vision on what that looks like there. We have a lot of growth ambition for my full-time job and the marketing and sales enablement tools that I'm responsible for building and supporting within that organization. And we've got a big vision there of automation, streamline, and impact, increased impact, because we realize that we've got a lot of untapped potential out there. And we're going to go after that because every new school we can work with is hundreds of students' lives impacted over the years. And that is something that we all feel very, very passionate about. So that's probably my biggest focus. And then I've got a separate vision for my family. I've got 2 young children. I've got a wife, and I need to be here with them and supporting them and being the best husband and father I can possibly be. And then I've got a vision for myself, and they all look a little bit different. That's why I say which part are you looking for, and that's where it all foundationally comes down to my overall mission, just to grow a little bit every day, to move each one of these needles in the right direction every day. And sometimes that's a bigger move for others, and sometimes it's deprioritizing certain things because other people need other things. And again, it's honestly, I really love what you do here, Kevin, because it's all relationship driven. Every bit of it is. Yeah. The idea I mentioned with Ignium Education has been in the works for like 3 years, and it's honestly not something I've moved forward too much yet because I know I need the right person, and I'm kind of waiting and looking for that right person to come into play to really bring that one to life. And the other business idea that my wife came up with a couple years ago that I'm going to try to help her move the needle forward on a little bit more here in 2026 is also very, very people driven. We are going to be dependent on having the right people on the bus in the right seats. If not, it will literally mean complete failure or complete success. Mm-hmm. And it's not one of those like, well, we could have done better if we had the right person. It's not even going to work if we don't have the right person. So honestly, my vision for this year really is find the right people for a few different things.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate hearing all that, because I know for me, you know, being a husband and a father to 7 kids and currently grandpa to 6 grandkids, and we've got actually another grandchild joining us end of February, beginning of March. And I have been really intentional for over 20 years of like wanting to have my business fit in with the lifestyle that I want to live, and allowing me to be the husband and father that I want to be first, while also being the entrepreneur that I want to be. And it all supports each other, you know. Mm-hmm. And I love how you are just being so intentional about that. And you know, it's interesting. I got reconnected with an old friend that he too's an entrepreneur. And we got reconnected in November, not of this last year, but of 2024. And we hadn't seen each other in about 8 years. And he had a growing business. And also in those 8 years, he became a father to 4 children in that 8 years. and when we got to reconnect, he was like, Kevin, he said, you know, all that stuff you used to talk about being, you know, present for your family and having the business that allowed for that and just supported your lifestyle. He's like, man, it really lands with me now. He's like, because I am watching how fast the time goes and how fast these kids grow up. And he's like, you know, I don't want to just grow my business for growth's sake. I want to be really intentional about that. And I also, you know, I don't want to miss a thing with my kids growing up either, you know. And so it's been, you know, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs think like, well, can I really have it all? And I can tell you from personal experience, and I'm sure you're experiencing this too, Ryan, that yes, we can totally have it all. We can be the husband we want to be, the father we want to be, and the entrepreneur we want to be, and make a big impact in this world. We can absolutely do all of it. We just need to be intentional about it.
Mm-hmm. So, I absolutely couldn't agree more. It's funny you say that because as you were speaking, maybe because it's the beginning of the new year, I don't know if you've heard of One Word, having a word of the year, but it's something that I started back in 2021, I believe, and the very first word of the year that I ever had was intentional. And my word of the year this year kind of was rising top of mind as you were speaking there as well, which is present. I need to be present because it's very easy for me with all the different things I just listed to be very distracted. And I need to be present in the moment for exactly what's in front of me and 100% engaged with that. That's something I've always tried to do, but I need to be way more intentional about that presence, to the tune of, if I'm sitting on the floor playing Barbies with my daughter, the phone isn't even in reach to hear it ring or ding or check an email or anything. And I'm extremely fortunate with that all the people around me and all the people I engage with regularly and work with regularly are very, very supportive of that. So if it's a 5:30 text that I don't respond to, maybe even until the next morning, nobody's upset. I think that's the biggest key. When you say, can you have everything? If you feel like you can't have it all, it may be because you're in the wrong circles, so you've got the wrong people around you, and they're making you feel like you can't have it all. Because when you have the right people around you, they encourage you to seek it all and to go for it all, and they're supportive of that, no matter what that may look like. And it could be we have something urgent that came up at 7 p.m., but if you don't respond to me, I fully understand, and there are no hurt feelings. We will get to it in the morning because you're with your family, and that's more important.
Yes. Amen. Absolutely. And you're so right that the people who are in alignment with us, they will not only get that and understand that, they will fully support us in that. Because they also know that by doing that, they get us at our best too, I mean, we get to show up at our best for people we serve when we do have this life that we want to have and stuff, and when our business fits in with the life that we want to live. And everybody wins, and so, well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. For anybody that's listening to this and thinking to themselves, man, Kevin, I really like Ryan. I love who he is and how he shows up, and some of the things that he shared, man, it's really got me thinking it too. And maybe he might be able to help us, or maybe they're thinking of somebody else that they might want to know about you. Any websites, any resources we can share with folks?
Honestly, not very active on social media aside from LinkedIn. That's going to be the primary. So just look me up on LinkedIn, just Ryan Kassner, and I will receive messages, connections. I'm on there pretty much every day doing something. I've got links to all sorts of websites and resources and things I'm active in doing, and I'm trying to get more active in my own outgoing posts. I'm big on the engagement side of things, but I'm trying to get a little more active in my own thought leadership on that platform as a whole. So perfect. Ryan, any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap? I would just like to encourage everybody to remain flexible, open, and curious about the people in their lives and the people that are around them. I think we too often try to pigeonhole people into what we think they should be, into what we think they can and cannot do, and we don't necessarily afford people the opportunities that maybe we should. And I like the idea of keeping an open mind, getting curious, and seeking with intention effective collaborations and partnerships, because we're all going to go farther together. And if we keep that in mind and we welcome people in, we're all going to have a whole lot more fun doing what we do. Amen. Absolutely. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today, Brian. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thanks so much. Yeah, I appreciate what you're doing here, Kevin. Driving home the value of relationships is not something that we can hear enough, because it should be, I think, our top priority in life. Amen. Mm-hmm.